Hi, it's Rich Tehrani with TMCnet. We're doing a roadshow out here in Silicon Valley, an editor's day, so to speak, where we're meeting with some of the best and brightest companies in the area. And on our program right now is Alex Henthorn-Iwane. He is with Kentik. Alex, how are you?
Good. Good to see you, Rich.
Good to see you too. Thanks for being here. For those people who may not know your company, tell us a little bit about Kentik.
Sure. So Kentik is a SaaS cloud-based provider of network traffic, network performance monitoring, and DDoS protection services. So it's a solution that really replaces a lot of the traditional network monitoring and network management appliances that were used with a SaaS, a big data platform.
So you said DDoS protection is one, and of course now with IoT devices such as security cameras being found to be vulnerable, and with perhaps a trillion of them soon to be on the market,
right,
the potential for more DDoS attacks just grows with the size of the market, the IoT market.
Absolutely. I think that what we saw in October with some of the biggest, well, the best known attack was the one on Dyn that shut down a bunch of the name brand websites like Twitter and Netflix and that sort of thing. But there were some other really big attacks in that same month, terabit level attacks in one case. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that in 2017 because, as you've mentioned, basically the genie is out of the bottle. There are a ton of these devices out there. They're almost like they were made to be exploited, essentially, because they come with such bad security configured on them, and most people don't change. So they're just ripe for the taking by botnet malware. And so I think a lot of organizations are looking at the need to improve their defenses. It's like a lot of security things, it's an arm race, and this is a major escalation on the, let's say, the bad guys side. Sure. And one of the things that we're offering is a much more accurate way to detect DDoS attacks. Because we have a big data engine, we can take the huge volumes of network data that's generated by network infrastructure devices, routers, switches, that sort of thing, that are connected to your internet connections, and look at that data holistically, network-wide, and we use learning algorithms to do baselining. So what we found in the field is that compared to the sort of older models that are these single server appliances that are wheezing and struggling and trying to keep up with that data, and they really don't have the headroom to do very sophisticated analysis, that we can produce about a 30% better detection of attacks. And we automate the triggering of the stopping or the scrubbing of the attack traffic through sort of standards-based approaches, as well as we have partnerships with A10 and Radware for the mitigation side. So we're offering a much more accurate way to detect and then stop those attacks.
So basically, the best way to stop a DDoS attack is really from a network standpoint or from a cloud-based or having your carrier deal with it, right? Because they're in the best position to kind of shunt the traffic away from hitting your servers directly, right? So
there's a couple of different ways to think about, what is the best practice around DDoS attack protection. If you don't have a large digital business, then in many cases you are, it's just your WAN has a connection to the internet for your service provider. And in many cases, those you might have maybe a secure pipe, or you have something that some service the service provider is offering. If you have a website, in many cases organizations will use CDNs, and those can be a good place to protect just the website. However, if you have a larger or more business-critical digital initiative, digital business initiative, or you're doing a lot of business across the internet, there's a lot more than just the front end of your website to protect. There's a lot of other communications that goes into making all that stuff work. And as we saw from the Dyn attack, those are like a critical supply chain for those money-making applications. So, for example, in the case of Dyn, the websites, the main, the front ends of the Amazon, Netflix websites weren't attacked. They attacked the DNS. And by shutting down the DNS, they were able to shut off access to those websites, even though the websites were perfectly fine. So the ability to protect all of those communications, critical communications, is really becomes more important if you have a digital business. So if you do, that's where you need a little bit more complete protection from something like what we offer.
Now, in terms of cost, it seems that some companies know they need DDoS protection, right? I think some of the first attacks that I remember were Amazon and Microsoft back in the day. This is like, 10 years ago,
right.
Way back. And then we didn't hear about much. And then we saw the Dyn attack, and we also saw, I think, Krebs on security and Akamai right around the time. I'm not sure if that was one of the other ones
Yes.
you were referring to. So
Yeah,
that was right around the same
several hundred gigabits
time.
per second, right.
So the challenge I think companies have, and I'd like you to address this, is that, all right, some companies know and they have the resources to deal with it, like Amazon and Microsoft obviously have the money and they know they need to spend the money. But what happens to the mid-level company? And I would even put a Krebs on security, like, it's not a multi-billion-dollar business as far as I know.
Right.
And how do these companies protect themselves? Do you offer something for the small to medium business that's not raking in the dough to kind of semi-protect them or scale up the protection as necessary?
I think there's a couple different sort of ways to think about it. Yes. I think that, so one of the categories of, there's kind of, if you're an enterprise and you have a major digital business initiative, if you're depending on doing business over the internet for a critical set of revenue, or if that's where your profit engine is, or so that sort of thing, it's going to be worth your while to have thorough protection, and you will know that that's going to be a strategic issue for you. You can think of DDoS protection as part of ensuring the network experience of your applications, in a sense. It's not something separate, because DDoS is really an availability issue. They're cutting off the oxygen, right?
Sure.
When they're attacking. So one of the things that we offer is the ability to manage and protect that whole network experience. DDoS is part of that. That might be that you make a limited amount of investment on sort of on-site or on-prem protection, like through a Radware and A10, and then many of them have cloud options where you can burst. And that really controls the cost, but allows you to have a scalable way to protect. Plus, you have all the visibility, the highly accurate
Sure.
detection and all the visibility. That sort of hybrid approach is a much more affordable way than assuming that you have to pile up a huge amount of iron on-prem. But that was the choice you had before, right? It was either a lot of iron on-prem, it is a big capital cost, or kind of nothing.
Right.
Or a very expensive service. Because if you order clean pipe service, it's going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars per month. If you're an always-on kind of a service. If you're doing something that is even on demand, it can be quite expensive. So there's no cheap solution, in a sense, for DDoS protection, but a hybrid cloud sort of approach makes it a lot more affordable. Here's an example. For example, there are a lot of ISPs that really are concerned about this as well. They have to protect their subscribers, they have to protect their own infrastructure. And, but they may or may not be big businesses. If you have 100,000 subscribers, what do you do when a gamer gets DDoSed? There are ways to use our platform to use features that are built into routers, or to communicate to your upstream ISP to cut off traffic to a particular, subscriber if you really need to. And you can do that. That mitigation aspect is free. For an enterprise, you don't want to cut off anything. You don't want to cut off your servers because you're accomplishing the DDoS for the attackers.
Right.
So you really have to scrub the traffic in some way. It really becomes, how do you do the most economical balance of that, and that's a hybrid approach.
I mean, I don't know how much the average person out there knows, or I mean, hopefully we're probably going to. I imagine that the
Folks
audience
are going to be learning a lot more. I think.
Well, yeah, the
year.
audience for this video interview is going to be a lot of techies, obviously, but chief security officers and a lot of IT managers and IT directors, et cetera. But I don't know if people realize in general the vulnerability of any nation, because if I were an attacker, what I would do is they went after Dyn, so now Dyn and all the companies in that space doing DNS, like GoDaddy and some of the others, are going to probably shore up their defenses.
Right.
What I would do is I would go after like the the Inc. company, the fast-growing companies in the middle, not the Fortune 1000 that probably have the money to spend on this, but that Inc. level of company, you just go up and down that list, you can destroy a GDP of a nation if you were to go for their mid-level companies. I mean, it's a major security hole that we have in our national productivity could be at stake. And we say, who needs their website and doesn't need their website? I'd argue that any company needs its website to survive as its marketing vehicle. Even if it doesn't have 10,000 digital customers, they're getting new business on a daily basis. Even small companies could be getting, $10,000, $20,000 customers that if they're offline for a couple hours, they could be losing significant business. So it's a major problem for our nation, for every nation.
Yeah, and I think beyond DNS, there are things like payment processing and other, one of the things that a lot of IT folks don't think about is that there are a lot of different services that go into running a website. Think about just all the marketing tools. They're all in the cloud today. Yeah. Right? Those things go down, you can't measure what's happening on your website. That's a major problem. There are tons and tons of interconnections. It's like, that's why I use the sense of, the analogy of a supply chain. There are a lot of digital supply chain services providers that make your e-commerce or your other website kind of, functions actually work and deliver service, deliver an application, deliver revenue, deliver brand. You have to think about that whole sort of ecosystem of your digital suppliers and think about how you protect that. Some of that is from attack and some of that is just from the complexity as well. So that's one of the things that we try to educate customers in is think broadly about your digital supply chain in a sense. And how is that protected and how do you assure that?
So as we're getting towards the end of the interview, share with us why are your customers choosing you as opposed to other solutions out there? Why you?
So the reason they choose Kentik is because, first of all, obviously they see the need for the visibility and the protection. But what we're offering is really a truly modern cloud scale capability from a point of view of being able to actually deal with the volume of data and give the kind of accuracy and the depth of analytics. The old model was a single server appliance. And that's just 15 years old. It just doesn't measure up anymore. All of IT is moving to the cloud. Everything is moving to big data levels of data. To not be using cloud scale and big data for the way that you analyze and run these critical operations is a major handicap. So those our customers see that gap, and that's why they're choosing us rather than sort of the more traditional ways of doing things.
Fantastic. Did we leave anything out?
I think we've covered things pretty well.
Okay, if I want to get a hold of Kentik, I just go to kentik.com?
Kentik.com, yep. Okay,
fantastic. And you're based out of?
We're based out of San Francisco.
Okay, very cool. Well, thanks for being here today. This was great.
Really appreciate the time.